Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and we're talking about something I am quite passionate about, game collecting. So I've been collecting video games, well, my whole life, but then I imagine many of us share the same story, which is, in my case, when I saw the Xbox 360 that I bought in 2008, I was a couple of years late to it, I decided to trade in my entire video game collection. That was PS2, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, original Xbox, and I still had to pay $100 out of my wallet to get a 360 with Call of Duty World at War and Mass Effect 1. And what a great time that was, but I gave up literally my entire childhood for it. So over the years, as my passion has developed for video games, I've slowly been rebuilding that collection that I had when I was a kid, but also discovering new games I had never heard of through tastes that developed over the years, like my love for JRPGs has led me in a million and one directions of games that I always dreamed of but didn't know existed. And today we're talking about, while despite I have a huge passion for game collecting, why the hobby is absolutely terrible in 2022. And I gotta call it as it is. Now, you may be looking at this video, the subject matter, and thinking to yourself, why isn't this a retro rebound video? And maybe one day it will be if things continue to be bad, but I thought, of course, I gotta be real with myself. Retro Rebound just passed 50K subs. Incredible, by the way. We aren't even a year old over there, so that's awesome. But that channel is smaller, and I really wanted to do a giant signal boost, if you will, on the subject matter. I've seen a couple other YouTubers talking about it. It's popped up in my recommended over on Retro Rebound. And I thought to myself, let me use the big platform of Mr. Matty to talk about older video games, which is something that does matter here on the channel, just less so compared to Retro Rebound. Plus, I feel like anything ranty and ravey just fits really well here because I'm, heavily opinionated, which is to the chagrin of many people on the internet. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the hobby, what I think is wrong with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts and your experiences down below. If you're new here and you're into conversations within the video games industry, I know that's a very broad term to market your channel for, but we just talk about video games pretty much every day except weekends. Consider subscribing. With that, I've got a handful of examples next to me of when I was looking at my entire game collection, which in the scheme of things, compared to what I see online, really isn't that big or anything to go whoa over. I'm proud of my collection, but it's not something that's gonna knock your socks off, I feel. But I have some gems in there. But when I was looking at it, I was waiting for games to call out to me on a moment where I went, oh yeah, that's something that's wrong with game collecting. I think the first thing I can put my finger on is I started to really take collecting seriously in 2019. That's when I started to invest a little bit more in picking up older games, but it really caught fire in the worst year imaginable for it, which was 2020. And I think it's because society as a whole, I don't mean to get philosophical here, but with the pandemic beginning, we all collectively yearned for simpler times. And for me, my simpler times was when I was playing my PlayStation 2, when I was playing my Game Boy Advance. So I got heavy into video game collecting and began to really take it seriously, regathering my childhood, and suddenly the prices skyrocketed. My connection there, the thread I tied to it was, oh, well, we can't currently go out to any storefronts. We don't know at this time what's going on with this virus. So the only option is online, and a lot of savvy businessmen and women took complete advantage of that and said, well, your options are limited. If you want this game, you're gonna have to pay up. And what happened is, as local game shops began to open up again, they had to catch up because they had missed out on so much money, and also saw the online storefronts were selling them for such a high price and people were paying for them that they went, okay, we're going to scale our prices up. Where the main problem with the hobby is it's just extremely expensive. There was a time, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this store, but I grew up near a Dragon's Den, and I was looking it up, and there's a number of Dragon's Dens scattered around the United States. But for those who don't know what it is, it's kind of your nerd shop, if you will. I remember going in there and I would buy Pokemon cards, and then I would go into a section full of cartridges. And I remember when I bought a Nintendo 64 at the end of high school, I went in there, I got Pokemon Stadium, its cartridge for a couple of bucks. I got Army Men Starters Heroes for $1. All these games, they could practically not even give them away. And you could just go into the store and get a handful of them, your entire collection. I got Smash Bros. For all a combined 15 bucks. Point being, things have got expensive. What's horrible about the hobby now is the Nintendo tax, as I like to call it, has really made its way into collecting for GameCube, DS, Game Boy Advance, Wii. There are games with very minimal differences between their PS2, Xbox, and GameCube counterparts, but the GameCube versions are off the charts expensive. It's friggin' unreal. And then you get into GameCube exclusives. Some of the most expensive ones you can find are right here in my hands. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum, both complete in box. If you're a maniac, this hobby gets expensive as well. If you want the inserts, the manual, the disc in good condition, you don't want that. If you watch Retro Rebound, you know what I'm talking about, like the griminess that some people have on their cases because they just didn't take good care of their stuff. You're pretty much paying a supreme premium. It's insane. But especially Nintendo stuff is off the rails. And it's because there's this artificial tax on, well, it's Nintendo, so pay up, sucker. And I've never been able to wrap my head around that. Maybe it's because my separation with Nintendo is larger than others. I talk about it a lot because I think it's a pretty unique perspective to have compared to many other gamers on the internet who talk about like, oh, I remember playing Wind Waker and Sunshine, and meanwhile I was playing like Naruto Clash of Ninja on my GameCube, right? I played very different exclusives on all these platforms, so I missed out on a lot of stuff. So my attachment to Nintendo isn't as high, where maybe I don't see it, but it has continued to inflate these prices, where now the biggest problem is people are trying to turn selling video games into a business. Years ago, it was highly recommended if you were to buy and sell anything, it would not be video games. Steer far away from being a reseller. Now, it's become less of a hobby for people and more of an investor's game, a stock market, if you will. The buying low, selling high, when's the right time to invest. There are YouTubers, and I will hold myself accountable here with Retro Rebound, that may play a part in inflating the market because you'll show off the games you get, although I think I do it in a fun way because I go over to GameStop and I show people pretty much what I get for an extremely high price, which is absolute garbage, and steer them away from this stuff. But I still do show off hauls, things I get complete in box, and that does excite people and go, oh, I love that game. I want to check that out. Let me go get a copy myself. So I definitely will admit I probably play a factor in some way, but I'm not one of those channels like, can I buy $30 of games and flip it for $300? This was sold to me for just $10 and it's a $100 game. Then what happens, because I've been on the receiving end of it, you see someone post that video and you go, oh, let me see if I can get a deal. Let me see if I can get a little sucker. And you go on the Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, eBay, whatnot, what have you, and you try to find a deal. And when you can't find it, all you see are these sky-high prices. So yeah, to me, that all ties into a Nintendo tax, but also that this has turned into not just game collecting, but investors trying to create a business off of it. And it's risky, man. It is a risky play because everyone's selling high. No one's selling low where you can take that and then flip it to sell high. So I don't know how anyone really makes money off of selling video games unless you have amassed a huge collection with repeats and games you have no attachment to, and you are now just selling it all off. Otherwise, I think getting into the collection game to try to buy low and sell high, good luck. It's really hard to find people who don't know what they're doing, which I think is just the market doing its thing. But also, a big part of it are things that make sense. The PS Vita, y'all know, I love my Vita. Of course, I got Danganronpa here. Things like this make sense when they go up in value to me. The PS Vita is discontinued. No games are being made for it. It is a dead system. So it is a relic of the past, and one that was under-supported, where it was already hard enough to find games for the Vita in the first place that weren't like your first-party games, Killzone, Uncharted, so on and so forth. So yes, when you had a game like Danganronpa on the Vita, where I think it plays best, it makes sense why this experience here would be more pricey. You're talking about a niche game on a niche handheld that was unsupported, that barely printed copies. So it makes sense why something like this would be expensive. There are times I think the market is fair in that sense. Like, okay, this is a rare item. You're going to have to pay for it. But there's things like, I just bought this game here, Valkyrie Profile 2 Silmeria. And this is a series I want to get into. But I bought this game back at PAX. So this was April. And when I had bought it at a local game shop, I paid 30 bucks for this game. And I went online just to look. And the reason I picked this one off the shelf is I see people on eBay buying it for 70. And the shop I bought it from, you know, they were selling it for market value. I just picked up games because sometimes there's the benefit of, again, knowing that, okay, I'm gonna have to pay a huge price for this no matter what. At least I can in person crack it open, check the quality of things, feel it out, and know like, okay, this is a good quality game. I'll just pay for it because I know it's right here in front of me, and I don't have to worry about eBay hiding something from me, Mercari hiding something from me. But this game was going for $70 now. People were buying Valkyrie 2 for $70. And I was trying to wrap my head around why to go up. And a lot of the times, there's no reason. That's the scary reality. Some people just go, oh, it's a PS2 JRPG that not a lot of people heard of. Bump it up. And a lot of people will overpay for things. I was on Whatnot. That's my newest discovery here. Whatnot's this. This isn't a sponsor, by the way. It's a pretty much TikTok combined with eBay where you watch live streams of people selling things and they'll auction things off. I watched someone pay $100 for Pikachu or Pokemon Yellow, the Pikachu edition, which is like a $40 cartridge. So people are just overpaying big time. And I'm not here to price shame because some people are like, well, it's worth it to me. That's great, but you could have bought 2 copies of it if it really meant that much to you. So the market's just all over the place. And the last part of it that I want to talk about is limited run. Limited run is out of pocket right now, in my opinion. I love limited run, by the way, because their whole business model is like my spirit. Game preservation, taking these digital only games and preserving them, taking classics that I grew up with, modernizing them through other developers like Aspyr would modernize Star Wars Republic Commando, put it on Switch. It's not just a temporary digital shelfware. They put it on a cartridge, so forever you will have Star Wars Republic Commando. The problem with limited run now is, I think, again, it's not really their fault in this sense, but people have seen the investment and payoff of buying a ton of limited run games and then selling them for double the price later. Look at, literally, I kid you not, any single limited run game when it comes out for $30, $40, you buy it, it takes forever to get to you. And by that point, they are no longer selling it on their website. So then scalpers will take these copies and sell them for 80 bucks because they are, limited runs. And it is mighty frustrating. At least it makes a little sense because you know these can't be printed anywhere else. But there are situations now, like with Republic Commando, where THQ Nordic actually worked with Lucasfilms to produce physical versions of all these Star Wars games that Aspyr has been making into these much cheaper collections. So why would I want the limited run version? That's something that I've found myself scratching my head over. Like, they do combo packs with like Republic Commando and Episode 1 Racer, or Jedi Knight Jedi Academy and Jedi Knight Jedi Outcast in this combo pack. And it's 20 bucks. You can literally go to Walmart, you can go to Best Buy, and you can find it sitting right there. So limited run has found itself in a sticky situation where they're charging more. They're taking forever to get you your games. I pre-ordered TMNT, the Shredder's Revenge Collector's Edition. I pre-ordered the KOTOR Master Edition. I still have yet to get any type of update on that. I'm going to pre-order the KOTOR 2 Master Edition, and that'll be another year before I see that. Their timing for what they charge versus when it's delivered is absurd. And so overall, these combined factors make the collecting game a complete and utter mess. And it's frustrating because I think there are so many fantastic games out there that some people just want to play. And even the price to just play them is absurd. And this ties back to something I've talked about a lot, and I don't want to reiterate points here, but a lot of these companies are failing us because when you look at the digital storefront, PlayStation Plus, when you look at Nintendo Switch Online or Xbox claiming that they can no longer do anything with backwards compatibility, these are primary reasons why the retro game market has spiked. There is no other alternative than to buy these games over physically on eBay, on Mercari, whatnot, whatever it is, because that is the only way to experience them until some subscription service decides to say, okay, we'll finally add support, maybe Switch Online for the GameCube. And then in 2 years, maybe you'll get Pokemon Coliseum. But by that point, the market has solidified. It has set itself. And I know that companies do benefit from this artificial scarcity of their products by making them feel more rare. So when you get something like a Mario 3D All-Stars, everyone rushes out, buys like 5 sealed copies to sell later. I'm sure it'll be worth something because Nintendo decided to just not print anymore. But the game sold millions of copies, so they're just out there. That's not how it was back then, where at least I could say something like Valkyrie Profile 2, you weren't printing millions of copies of this because gaming wasn't as big. Like, there weren't that many consumers for a product like this, where maybe nowadays you could justify that. Yes, the cycle does repeat again and again and again. You do see now it's a good time to buy Xbox One, PS4, because those are the games you look at and go, oh, there's no value to them. But fast forward another 10 years, and they will be valuable. I would at least say so. And because it's been the same way with the PS2, when you could go to GameStop and you could grab a bunch of complete in box games for $10, you're like, oh, these are worth absolutely nothing. Now look at them. Now look at Valkyrie Profile 2. Now look at Pokemon Coliseum. Because when you go on eBay and stuff, you'll see people selling stuff and they'll have the price tags of what they paid for it. And you'll see the GameStop sticker for like Pokemon Coliseum, $10. You're like, wow, I wish. Because when I bought that game, guess how much it was? $120. Guess how much XD Gale of Darkness was when I bought it at a yard sale in the Bronx? $150. That's considered a decent deal, by the way. That's an almost $200 game. What I paid for Pokemon Coliseum, about like 10, 15 bucks under market value. That's considered a good deal now. It's ridiculous. It's bad. And so, not to be too ranty and ravey, because I still love it. I still love getting the nice physical games. I love supporting these smaller businesses. To me, it's a feel-good thing as well. But my God, has it got completely out of hand. So I want to know your stories. Do you agree that game collecting in 2022 has become absolutely horrendous? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.